Good morning. I'm E.W. Dempsey, Health Ministries Director for Georgia-Cumberland Conference, and I'm excited today for our training seminar on how to organize and conduct a Let's Move Day. And we have folks here that are present, that are alive, and we are glad that you're watching over the live streaming. And we will give a chance for the folks that are here to ask questions at the end of each section. Otherwise, we will continue moving right through the program. But to begin with, I would like to just have a spiritual thought coming from Hebrews chapter 12. As we all know, Hebrews 11 is the faith chapter in which we see the heroes and heroines of the Bible. In verses 35 through 40, we see that they didn't receive the promise they were looking for, but of course it was referring to the second coming of Christ. And we ask, how did they have such faith? We go to the 12th chapter, and in verse 1 we read, "Wherefore, seeing we also are compassed about with so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and the sin which so easily beset us, and let us run with patience the race that is set before us." And when we think about racing, we normally think of maybe sprinting, but there's different kinds of races, aren't there? The sprints usually are 100 yards, 200 yards, up to about 400 yards, or 400 meters. When you get into the longer runs, it's a different type. You cannot sprint, for example, 26 miles plus. It just is not physiologically possible. And so in sprints, we go hard as we can go, but in the longer races, it's being patient. It's what we call pacing, whatever the level would be for you. And so the admonition here is that as we are running through life, spiritually speaking, that we don't quit. We don't try to run with a full burst and then just kind of fall over and give out. It's a steady movement, if you want to say that, a faith climb along the way. And then in verse 2, it says how that they were able to get this kind of faith. It says, "Looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is set down at the right hand of the throne of God. For consider him that endured such contradiction of sinners against himself, lest ye be wearied and faint in your minds." Here we see the focus on Christ dying for us, being separated from his Father, not by his sins, but by the sins that he took, which were ours. And it says, consider what he went through. And so in considering, it says, lest you get tired, you get wearied. If you're running a long-distance race and you're not in very good shape, you're probably going to slow down and walk, and maybe even stop and rest for a few minutes. So on the spiritual journey, remember this, we're not trying to run with a great burst of energy, but to stay steady without fainting. And then the fourth verse says, "Ye have not yet resisted unto blood, striving against sin." In all of these events, there's a striving. It takes effort to get up and move. And that's what we're talking about today. And our theme text is Isaiah 60, verse 1 and 2, specifically verse 1. "Arise and shine, for the glory of the Lord is risen upon you." Arise means get up. It doesn't mean sit there. And the connotation is that you're going to have some kind of movement once you get up. Let us pray. Father God, we thank you for this day and this opportunity as we look at this great way of reaching out to communities, helping kids that need help, adults that maybe need help, and also as a way to build relationships with the people that we meet. So bless us today as we look at how to organize for success, different types of things we can do. We thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. The Let's Move program was created by Mrs. Obama a few years ago. And I realize that sometimes people try to make this type of thing a political issue. But folks, we have a serious problem in this country regarding weight. It's very interesting statistics, and you can get this off the internet, but I was just looking at the state of Georgia. And right now, adults, 30.2% are either overweight or obese. You say, well, what's this got to do with kids? Well, we know that there is a relationship between the way our lifestyles as far as adults and our children. And another very interesting statistic on this is that 43 of the states for the United States are over 25%, either overweight or obese. But what's interesting about that in 1930, there was absolutely no states over 25%. So it shows that how this has become a big problem. Now, as far as children are concerned in Georgia, right now it's improved a little bit over the last statistic, but in the year 2013, we still have about 13 to 14% of the kids who are in this obese range. And we're talking about 50 pounds or more overweight. And what's complicated this, and it's not just a diet thing, although it is a factor, obviously, is that physical education has become almost non-existent in the public schools because of money. I taught physical education for many years where we had kids exercising every day. Now, in most cases, they have it for 30 minutes a week. And you can see that that's almost, sadly to say, a waste of money. And so this program has been created to bring an emphasis upon the need specifically for exercise, for movement, but of course there is also the factor of diet that's connected with that. 2 years ago, I was invited to a meeting in Nashville, Tennessee with faith-based organizations that are going in this direction with Let's Move Day. And it was very interesting, because when I was introduced as the representative for the Seventh-day Adventist Church in the state of Tennessee, it was a very interesting reaction, because afterwards people came up talking about how they knew that Seventh-day Adventists had such a stress on the need for exercise and diet. But the point is, we're not the only ones doing it. The world is waking up to this situation. And I think that's really important, because if we don't wake up, then we're going to stay asleep and nothing's going to change. And so what we're going to do today is I'm going to just mention a couple of things at the beginning, and then we're going to introduce one of our key people in this conference. As you think about the organizing for this program, obviously, it's going to start with the church board. They need to support this and understand the concept in whatever direction you're going to go. And then it's a matter of, once they've given approval, of planning an organizational meeting. And the very first thing at that organizational meeting is going to be to choose a coordinator for the Let's Move program. Without the coordinator, it's not going to happen. Now, the rest after that we'll be talking about as the morning goes along. But some ideas, some things that can happen. There's a variety of things you can do. We're going to be sharing those this morning. One thing I really ask us not to do, and a lot of us are doing it because it seems the simplest to do, is to have a 5K run. The 5K run is good for adults, but most smaller children cannot just go do that. So let's just kind of take notes, especially you that are watching on the live stream. Take notes, and you then can contact my secretary, Becky Campbell. You can call her if you'd like tomorrow or this week, and we'll send you a physical copy of some of the suggestions and things that we're giving out here today. The conference number is 800-567-1844, and her extension is 348. That's extension 348. And so at this time, I'm going to jump right in and introduce Larissa Brass, who is from the Lenore City Church in Lenore City, Tennessee. Now, I will tell you that for more than 2 times, at least a number of times, they have been recognized by the North American Division. We've been recognized as a conference as leading all of North America, and in her case, leading as far as the individual church is concerned of how really to do this and be successful. And there at the presentation, we've had representation from the White House because the Council on the President's Physical Fitness Test is still in place for our schools. And the leader of that has been there to meet us and to give us the award. And from the very inception, our president of the General Conference was at the meeting at the White House to commit the Seventh-day Adventist Church in support of this. And so that's why we're here today, is to take some practical, give you some practical advice and help. So Larissa, I'm going to ask you to come up, and we're glad that you can be with us today.
Well, thank you for inviting me, and good morning. It's good to be here this morning, and I am here to talk a little bit about our Let's Move Day event, and essentially the things that God has done to open doors. For us, it kind of started out as an experiment. EW called the then health ministries leader of our church on the phone and said, "What are you doing for Let's Move Day?" And so we came up with something. But really, God just was moving all along the way, opening doors for us. And I want to talk a little bit about that. Want to go back a little bit to talk about the history of the church. I think one thing that's really exciting about what's happened in Lenore City, which is a pretty small community, although we're a suburb of Knoxville, is that we're a very small church, and we've been able to connect with our community in such a way so that we can have a pretty significant community event with a small church congregation. And I think most Adventist churches tend to be on the smaller side, maybe with not as many financial resources or health resources within the church. So that's been one thing that's been exciting for us, is finding a way to connect with our community without having a lot of resources. This is our church. Actually, we have moved to a new building, but I wanted to show you where we started out. My husband and I came to the church about 17 years ago, I guess, and there were 12 of us in the church. A few long-standing members, a few people that had come back to the church after being out for some years, and we all came together and felt like God had brought us together. It was a church that was on the verge of being closed at one time, and our former pastor talked to the conference folks and convinced them. This is his story. I don't know firsthand what happened, but to give it a chance. And so we essentially just started out praying as a group and visiting, doing evangelism, prayer walking our community, doing door-to-door ministries. And that's, I say that to say that what EW talked about this morning as far as this being a long-term process, a marathon, it is. And it's things that God does over time. So for us, Let's Move Day kind of happened on the heels of all of these things, but really looking and praying for a way to connect with our community. And one thing that we looked at, we have a pretty small population. It's about 8,000 people, I think, in Lenore City. And then there's a nearby town, but people tend to be very insular. They're within their community, so they're not going to travel a long distance to do something. So we wanted to focus on an event that would be very much a neighborhood event that would be easy for people to come to. The demographics of our community, we have very low income, lots of families with children, and a significant problem with overweight and obesity. About 45 to 50% in the local elementary school. So it's a significant problem in our community. We have a very small downtown but with a really nice, accessible greenway that's easy to get to from the neighborhoods. So that's definitely an asset that we have there. And also, I think for us, it really helped as a very small church. We have probably 50 to 60 in attendance every Sabbath without much of a name in the community, because there are lots of very big churches there. To have the credibility of the Let's Move Day program behind us, to say this is something that's a national event, that we're doing in partnership with the White House, and as part of this bigger movement, I think really helped us to kind of get those early doors open. Very much a local interest in obesity prevention among the schools, the hospitals. I think this really came at a good time where people were really kind of starting to be aware. And this has been 4.5 years ago now. I can't believe that much time has gone by. And so there was a big interest, particularly in the focus on children and obesity prevention among most of the people that we talked to up front. And then we are fortunate enough, and I know this isn't true for probably some churches that are in more rural areas, but we were close to Knoxville and the University of Tennessee and a lot of resources. So even though we're a small community, it's not, it's only 30 minutes to get there from Knoxville. Our community partners, so what was pretty important early on is to sign on community partner names that people recognized. And so the first folks that we called, I had already had some preliminary contact with the school system. So the Lenoir City school system, we partnered with them early on, as well as our local hospital, Fort Loudon Medical Center, which is Covenant Hospital. It's a large corporation up in Knoxville that runs a lot of hospitals. And then we gained permission from the Parks and Recreation Department to use that greenway as the venue for our event. So kind of with those things in place, we were able to move forward and a lot more easily recruit other partners. When you can call and say, I'm from the Lenoir City Seventh-day Adventist Church, and we with Fort Loudon Medical Center and the Lenoir City School System are hosting this event for children, that made a difference in really being able to recruit folks. So with that, let's see. So our concept was, because we really wanted to focus on children and families with children, school-aged children. I think EW mentioned that I know quite a few churches and events feature 5Ks. I'd actually been in charge of organizing a 5K in the past, and I personally found it to be harder to kind of get everything lined up. And so I wasn't interested personally in kind of pursuing that. And I think for kind of the target population we were reaching, we really wanted to do something that was more contained and really focused on kids. So the goal was to have an event that showcased a variety of options for physical activity for children, just kind of opening the doors to them to think about things that they could do to get out and moving and to get excited about. Then we, the premise of that also was that if you had different activities in one venue, you could recruit organizations, and we call them activity sponsors, to come and do a standalone event, so that you didn't have to be everywhere organizing everything. So for example, we have in the past worked with the local AYSO. So they come and they set up and they do a soccer activity. They bring their director and their coach, and then they are in charge of that event. And all you have to do is send them to the spot, and then they interact with the kids. And that made it a lot easier so that we didn't have to be involved hands-on in every single thing that was happening on the venue. And also we really wanted to focus on what people could access locally, whether it be fitness programs or sports programs, or just accessing the mountains, being outside, kayaking, opening people to different options. You would be amazed at how many people have never been to the mountains. We're only 45 minutes away from the national park. Most of the kids, my husband helped with kind of our outdoor recreation event. All but one of the children that he spoke with had never been to the national park. So this is just kind of opening kids' eyes to new things and to ways to be active. And I want to show video, and I think Tammy's going to get this set up, to kind of give you a feel. This is actually from our first year. So some things have changed from year to year, and we have more kids now, but this will give you a sense for the event itself.
Well, we're having Let's Move Day here in Lenoir City for the kids here in Lenoir City. We're going to show them all the fun ways to exercise and get out in God's fresh air and nature and have a good time and feel healthy and have fun doing it.
Well, there's so many kids that are not active, and then we're just getting more kids that are either overweight already or at risk for it with their lifestyle. And so this is a great opportunity to show them you can have a lot of fun and be active at the same time.
Well, I'm with Meadowview Garden Center, and I just think this is a great thing that they're having today for the kids to encourage, healthy living. Today we're planting some cabbage, which is one of your cool season vegetables for the kids to grow.
These kids are not getting enough exercise.
Yeah, so what's happening?
They're getting overweight.
Yeah.
Overweight.
Yeah.
Overweighted.
Yeah.
Try and put your back foot flat on the ground.
And don't let your knee. I'm Susan Fox, and I'm with Lenoir City Schools Family Resource Center. This is my husband Ed. He's with the Pilot Club of Lenoir City, and we're here today as part of Let's Move Day because it's important for our families and our children to understand the importance of physical activity and the correlation that has with their academic success in schools. Go Panthers!
I work for Earth Fair, and I'm the Community Relations Coordinator, and we are making trail mix. Because it's important for kids to eat all natural food, and if we can decrease the amount of processed foods that we eat, then I think that it would increase the quality of life that our kids have. And we just want them to be healthy, and we want them to move, and when they move and they're healthy, they're happy. That's what everybody wants.
Hey, I'm Josh. I'm with the Rush Fitness Complex in Lenoir City. We're just here trying to show kids what it's like to get fit and why living a healthy lifestyle is good for you.
We got 5 right here.
All right, wait, you're gonna break my fingers.
All right, you ready?
Go! Hop!
Yeah. Good job.
Yay!
Look at you.
Been a good spirit all the way around. Everybody involved is working good together. This registration tent over here ran completely out of all their supplies. We had so many people coming through here.
There's only 2 balls, and what you're trying to do is you're trying to make it before the person behind you makes it.
Hey, I'm Ryan Kilmartin. I'm here with Tennessee Basketball, and I'm very grateful to be here. And it's important for people to come out and understand that obesity is not a problem just in Tennessee, but as well in the United States, and we need to help overcome it and be active and become fit.
We're promoting a program called Let's Move, and today is a focus all over the country actually, but especially in this area, to have kids focus on the need to get out and move and play different sports, different activities.
All right, yeah, we're good.
Yes.
Mixing, making us move. He's making us move.
What are you guys learning today?
Working is hard.
Working is hard.
And that should kid make that.
And exercise is good.
Yeah, exercise is good for your body.
Well, my name is Emmanuel Perez. We're out here for Let's Move Day, and I have a skateboard company based out of Knoxville, Tennessee called Knock on Wood Skateboards. Kids need to go outside and play and to me, skateboarding's, I've been doing it for like 10 years. It's fun, no coaches. You can go practice whatever you want.
We are making people aware of obesity because of their higher rates.
Yeah, there's different kids coming in.
It's more about being healthy rather than being obese. It's about getting active.
I'm just here to have fun.
Yeah.
I learned to stay active. Yeah, I want to win a medal.
Where's you gonna get your form?
Thank you. Did you have fun?
You ain't even gotta move. Your hands are just up, right, man?
Oh, good shot.
So that gives you a little idea of the way the event is organized and kind of some of the activities that we do and the way that things flow a little bit. So we've been doing it, this will be our 5th Let's Move Day event this year. And the first couple of years, we had about 150 kids who registered. And I will say that first year when our pastor talked about running out of supplies, we were blown away by the response. We had no idea how many people would come. And we put a lot of posters out, we handed out flyers in the schools, and but I will tell you that having an event like that, especially you saw the University of Tennessee athletes, that's free, and you are giving away free things, and there's free food, people come to that kind of event, especially the community that we're reaching. And 2012 was fairly flat, and then we really saw an uptick in attendance in 2013, and 2014 we were just shy of 300. I also wanted to include these numbers when we talk about the impact of this program on the community. You see, those are the kids that are coming, but they're all coming with families. They're coming with little brothers and sisters. They're coming with grandparents and friends. So those are just the kids that are registering and that are officially a part of the event. But the number on the left-hand side is where we include all the people who are coming with them, all the volunteers. University of Tennessee in the past couple of years has sent us between 50 and 60 student volunteers from their sports programs. So when you look at overall impact and connection in the community, it adds up really quickly. And just a few more pictures. So we've moved things around a little bit. We now primarily have that event in this open kind of soccer field here. We've expanded a lot on the gardening and the nutrition side, really trying to get kids interested in eating fresh produce. We've had, the past 2 years, have had some volunteers come from Southern Adventist University that have helped volunteer. And this last year, 2 girls came and they had little information to talk with the kids about, the importance of adding fruits and vegetables to their diet. And then they come away with they could pick a tomato and an apple, I think, and they all got their little bag of produce to go with them. This was a bike rodeo we did, a safety event. Depending on your community, this is actually a service that's provided by through East Tennessee Children's Hospital. However, we do have to provide the helmets, so that's something to think about in terms of cost. And sometimes you'll have local organizations that do that as well. So you just kind of need to know what's available in your community. This is our gardening station. We have the Knoxville Botanical Garden. They come and the kids love it because it's dirt and worms. And they bring these crates and they show them the concept of composting, and they get to pull out the worms and find the worms. And then they each get a plant to take home with them, some kind of fall vegetable. This was a new organization that had kind of a lot of gymnastic type equipment. I think it was National Fitness Center, and they were new for us last year. And I will say, anything that you can have in the background, you see the armory. Anything that you can have that can be seen from the street. We do as much promotion as possible, but what people see from the street is what brings them in. So any kind of inflatable thing or large thing that's visible, that's always great to have. And this is where they're being fitted with the helmets for the bike rodeo, which is safety training and awareness for biking. These are University of Tennessee tennis athletes, and they come, and we just got a little net, and then they do a tennis activity with the kids, and they love it. The students, the first year they came, they were like, tell us when you're doing it again, because we want to come back, because they really had a good time. And that's one thing, if you're in a community with any type of college or university, a lot of times those kids will need community service hours. And we are able to tap into the UT athletics program. They really promote their kids to get out in the communities, and so that's why we're able to get a lot of those athletes. Okay, so have walked through several things, just kind of wanted to go through sort of the basic steps. I know you got a handout, and this is actually something that we put together, I think, a couple of years ago. That's a little bit more detailed as far as information and putting your event together. But I will say a lot of what has happened has just been dependent on kind of the people that we've connected with and the way things have unfolded just because of our community. So there's an overall concept that I think is great, but every community's event will be and should be unique based on your resources and kind of the people that you connect with along the way. You know, it's important to assess your church. We are a very small church, so we knew our limits in terms of the number of volunteers and the number of things we could do ourselves. And that helped determine the event that we ended up organizing. So also, you know, what do you have as far as money? Some churches have, you know, several $1,000s to throw at this, and you don't need to be as concerned with raising sponsorships and things like that. Our church doesn't have a lot of money. Our budget is, typically our church will put about $1,500 toward this every year, and then we raise, I think this last year we raised an additional probably $850 to $1,000 in community sponsorships. So those are some things you need to think about, as well as your community. Who are the people in your community? You know, we had a lot of low-income families with children. That was our target demographic. But consider your community and their needs. I think this needs to be an event primarily that responds to the specific needs of the community that you're in. What are the resources of the community? We're fortunate to have a lot of community partners and a lot of organizations that were interested in getting involved with us. EW said this has to be something that is approved and championed by the church board, and I totally agree, especially if you're a small church. This event will be all-consuming for a couple of weeks anyway, and for much longer for those who are coordinating it. And you need to have the solid support of the board and of the pastor. We talked a little bit kind of determining the type of event you want to have. In terms of setting a budget, a lot of the money that we spend goes toward things like signage and promotion, printing costs, flyers. We do have a partnership with the local UPS store, they give us a certain amount of printing for free. So make sure you kind of include that, and then they're a sponsor of the event. Or if you have a large organization like the schools will, the offices of coordinated school health, do they have those in Georgia? Is that just Tennessee? Office of Coordinated School Health, or a health coordinator in the school systems? Okay. Okay, well, for anyone who's listening from Tennessee, that is a wonderful resource because it's their job to help make school kids healthier. So they do a lot of in-kind services for us, like printing flyers and distributing them through the schools. Otherwise, I would encourage you, if you're doing a child-focused event, to contact the schools as quick as you can, find out who you could deal with the schools, because that will be invaluable to you in promoting the event, even if it's just putting banners up on the school site beforehand. But so a lot of our budget goes for that. In the video, you saw them talking about the little girl that said, "I want to get a medal." So in the past, we have bought it's a real medal that you on a ribbon that you hang around their neck, and they love it. And I will tell you that a significant amount of our budget goes to those because they're not cheap. But it's something that the kids really latch onto that, and they really like having that medal when they're done with the event. So reserving your venue is pretty important right off the top. That, I guess, goes without saying. Your key partners, as I mentioned before, sponsors and donors. There's a whole segment of businesses in your community that may not show up as volunteers or to sponsor an activity, but will have budgets to give money to community events. And although it's probably, and we have not been the greatest in doing this, the best time to approach them is like November, December, when they're putting their budget together for the coming year. But we have been able to get, $150, $250, $300 contributions from those folks through the years. So that's something definitely when you're just looking at raising funds. Health insurance companies have a lot of giveaways. United Healthcare has always given us things to give away, whether it be jump ropes or string backpacks. I have not approached like Blue Cross Blue Shield, but they all have budgets for community health promotion. So that's definitely something to tap, kind of find out who your local representative or regional representative is for that. And our hospital, also, they can't give us cash, but they can buy things. And so every year, the first year they bought the string backpacks that we put stuff in, they've gotten pedometers for us. So if you can find something kind of significant, a giveaway that you'd like to do for the kids, and then have that sponsored, that's another way to do it. And then as far as your other partners for activities, just think about anybody in your community that's connected in some way to health or fitness, whether it be fitness centers. You saw the Earth Fair. Even our local grocery stores have given us like ingredients if we want to hand out a healthy snack or do like a little food cooking demonstration. They'll give away a certain amount of food for something like that. So outdoor stores, the Boy Scouts, they've come, Boys and Girls Club, and then local colleges and universities, as I mentioned before. And the University of Tennessee, in addition to athletes, several of their programs help support us. Their gardening program, and they do a program for children with special needs. They actually have a camp through the University of Tennessee, so they come do some activities for that. And I know I'm leaving something off. The UT Outdoor program, where you saw that inflatable climbing wall and that bike that makes smoothies, which is always a big hit. That's through UT. So this is kind of a sort of our personnel chart for the event. And as EW mentioned, you have to have a leader. You have to have somebody that's going to champion this and follow it through to the last detail. The first year is the hardest, and it's a lot of work. But as you go, it gets easier, and you already have those connections. But I would say I put in probably that first year, we probably put in 150 hours of just planning and chasing down sponsors and kind of going through everything. What the nice thing about having a successful event is that more and more people in the church want to be involved. And so as time has gone on, I've been able to kind of push more responsibilities out to other people. And I think that's great. That's actually a really nice benefit of an event like this, is you have people in your church who may not be involved in other like more traditional evangelism efforts or going door to door, but really get excited about this. And I have people that are asking me about it through the year, and that are always, you can always count on them to be there during the event. And it's really, I mean, it's an invigorating thing for our church. And so just kind of a breakdown, if it's helpful at all, to kind of let you know sort of our primary responsibilities. The girl now that helps me with a lot of the kind of planning ahead of time, she coordinates, she tracks down giveaways. And that's something I didn't really talk about. But you can go to Walmart, you can go to Hibbett Sports doesn't give things away. I figured that out. But like Academy Sports or anybody that, Dick's Sports, although you have to go online and do an application with them, but they sent us gift certificates one year and to get giveaways. And so we've given away everything from a backyard. Home Depot had a $1,500 backyard playground one year that they just surplused to us because they happen to have it. We've given away bicycles. The school system usually will sponsor bikes to give away. And then the church will usually buy things like balls and hockey sticks and tents to go camping and garden boxes, although the parents are a lot more excited about the garden boxes than the kids are. But so that's something that she really helps me with, because that's very time-consuming, tracking down those type of donations, and she also helps with sponsorships. And then a little closer to the event, we have people that'll kind of go through and map out where all the activities should go, get together and put all the giveaways in the bags that we hand out to children on the day of the event. That kind of happens the week before. And then general logistics, picking stuff up and dropping stuff off kind of that week before the event. And then down below, you'll see all the people that end up being involved with us on the day of, that show up as volunteers. That's not all inclusive, but that gives you some idea. And then on the very bottom are sort of those unique groups of volunteers, the kids that need community service hours, you know, whether it be high school or university, we've worked with those groups, as well as just kind of general community volunteers who we've met along the way that say, how can I help? And then you can just kind of plug them in where you need to. All right, and here's just some basic things when it actually comes to executing your event. Local media generally is really interested in events like this, especially kind of your smaller hometown newspapers. We also use the radio to help promote the event. We have a pretty significant Latino population in Lenore City, and there's a local radio station there that we use and put press releases out. It's also make sure that your first responders know what you're doing, especially that first year. You could see all those cars lined up, and it's pretty important for them to at least have an awareness that you're there and what's going on. Also, whoever the venue manager is, and maybe some of you are having these on your church grounds, but if you're using a park or anything like that, I would just encourage close communication, because there are things that you're not going to think about. The first year, nobody came to unlock the bathrooms. And Nancy Wheeler, EW, you'll appreciate this, called 911 to say that the bathrooms were not unlocked. Power availability, you're going to have some activities that you're going to need power. Last year we did smoothies, and so we had to make sure and get extension cords and power to that. And this was another thing, like just making sure that there's going to be a mowing pretty, close to the event. Sometimes you'll have bug, mosquito problems, so they can spray for that ahead of time. Just things like that, details. And then just make sure you follow up with everyone. I would recommend having a cell phone for every single person who's going to show up at your event that day, because somebody will get lost or somebody will just forget about it. Plan your schedule for the day. I think it's hugely important, and I should have emphasized this at the beginning too, that I really believe that God has opened so many doors. We have seen so many prayers answered every single year that we do a Let's Move Day. 2 years ago, there was 100% chance of rain. I mean, it was so wet that whole fall. And we literally saw that Wednesday or Thursday before the event, the whole front shifted and the rain came a day early, which it's kind of like the turning back of the clock. If you know where we live, the weather never comes early. It always comes late. And so it's just one example of answered prayers. And last year we found out at the last minute that we were going to need to buy helmets for everybody, and we hadn't had to do that before. Those were donated, and it was like $1,200, which was pretty much our budget for the entire event. But my assistant, Kristen, she happened to connect with a couple sponsors that had never sponsored before, and like within 24 hours we had the money for the helmets. It's just one thing after another, and I really believe in every single year, the week before and the Sabbath before, we take time to prayer walk the venue, to ask that the Holy Spirit will be there, to ask for safety. We've not yet had an accident, not to say that it won't happen, but and I think even more than that, to ask that there really be an atmosphere of compassion and love and peace. Because I really believe in the premise of Let's Move Day. I believe in the health focus of it. But what we've really found is that the result of it is just a really happy day for our community. There's just such a sense of joy and connection, and a lot of people that are coming to the event live pretty hard lives, and just that chance to really be connected with the people of our community and with the children of our community, I think we've found to be as much a benefit of having this event as the message of health and wellness, which is very important. And make sure you have volunteers to help you clean up, because nobody wants to do that part. I wanted to talk a little bit about the follow-up. And I know, and EW probably has some good examples of things that other churches are doing, because obviously we're not going to change the world with a one-day event. I mean, no matter how successful it is, and you're not going to change behavior. You're not going to create the kind of long-term relationships that you'd like with a one-day event. Although for us, well, I should say for us, we've found that has been an open door for those other things. But really in kind of that always being part of our prayer too. What do you want us to do? How do you want us to use Let's Move Day to make long-term connections with our community and to help us lead our communities closer to Christ ultimately, which is the purpose. And so this is a marathon, not a sprint, but I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the opportunities that we've had with this being will be our fifth Let's Move Day event. What happened kind of after that first event, it really plugged us in to local organizations and local groups, and I ended up being asked to be on our local Loudoun County Health Improvement Council, and I've served on that since 2013. Ended up co-chairing our obesity prevention task force, and now this next year I will be the chair of the Health Improvement Council. Again, just kind of a confluence of events, but that really opened the opportunity to have that connection and those relationships. And I think especially for small communities, there's a real need. There's a shortage of people that are willing to volunteer and to be part of the community in that way. So a lot of times there's kind of, if you step up and you're interested and you're wanting to be part, there's a real need out there, and people are going to ask you to be part of those things. We've had opportunity to get involved in other community events, and then kind of had these relationships build with local government, hospital, and healthcare, just getting to know personally the people of our community. And more specifically, here's us in the Christmas parade promoting our church and Let's Move Day. This is us. We sponsored like an inflatable basketball and soccer activity at a local event in May called Locapalooza, and we were some church members volunteered for that. Wanted to talk a little bit about the program that's kind of developed as far as, because I'm connected to the Health Council, I had the opportunity last year of coordinating a community garden project for Loudoun County. Lenoir City is one of two kind of major towns in Loudoun County. So I had the opportunity to coordinate that for the Health Improvement Council. And it started last year as a produce delivery program where we supplied low-income families and seniors with 5 to 10 pounds of free produce for 6 weeks throughout the summer. And it's kind of expanded this year into being a community garden program where we're actually growing produce, and our church garden then is a partner of that program. So we grow some produce on the church grounds and help supply the delivery programs to those families. And this year, the program is doing a summer youth development and training program, and interns from Southern Adventist University are going to be coming and working with kids in our juvenile detention system that have to work off community service hours. And they will be coming to the garden twice a week for a total of 8 weeks, 2 4-week programs. And so we have two young men from Southern that are really excited about the program and connecting with those kids. And it's just, we will provide, our church then provides housing for those interns to support that community garden program. And there's really grown some opportunities out of that then for other ministries. For example, we're looking at one Latino apartment complex and setting up some gardens there, and then being able to offer some nutrition classes associated with that program. So again, we're a small church. We could not have done this by ourselves. But as a community partner, we can come in and support things that we believe in, that we believe are health priorities, and that really provide us opportunities to expand those community connections and make for kind of longer term relationships and longer term programming. And these are some of our pictures. On the left hand is one of our elders, Bruce Germscheid. He's helping me as a volunteer for the community garden program. That's the big garden that's in Loudoun. My son on the right is building some raised bed gardens for the Loudoun County Health Department. They're doing a partner program for their women, infants, and children, and doing some gardening classes for them. And so he's at Southern, and he was an intern for our program during the school year. And that's our church, our current church, and our church garden site. And that's just a bag of the produce that we delivered every week to seniors. All right. Does anyone have any questions or comments, discussion? I know I went through a lot of information very quickly. Yeah. Pardon? No. No, in fact, that the garden project last summer, that was my practicum project to get my master's in public health. So that's kind of how how I've gotten into it personally. Oh, sorry, I forgot about. Hang on.
Are the gifts designed for prizes or just something to take away, or how do you determine that? You mentioned bicycles that are donated and things of that type.
So there's two different categories. We usually have things that we give away to every participant. And it can be something like a local organization may have donated pencils. We try to have those little pedometers. We've given those to kids, and they can track their steps through that day, and they come back and see how many steps they've gotten. So those type of things we do give every child. But then we have drawings. And that's, yeah, we have drawings where we give away the bigger things. So like sports items or bicycles or some of our larger prizes. And that actually, I would recommend you have a couple people at least on that day devoted specifically to that, because that, and if anybody has any questions, I can tell you exactly how we do that. But it's a little, it's complicated. It's something we do throughout the event, doing the drawings, and so it takes its own kind of workforce to coordinate that part.
How long did it take you to establish all of these relationships and partnerships prior to the event? And then can you comment briefly on your budget? I mean, you said set a budget, but what type budget, the amount of budget for your event?
Okay. Well, the very first year, I would not recommend this to anyone. We started at the beginning of August. I think EW called Nancy sometime in the 1st of July, and then we went on a vacation. So it happened very, very quickly. The thing is, though, if you're going to be involving the schools, you either need to get them before school gets out, or you will have to contact them right as school is starting. So we try to do as many things as we can ahead of time, but you will find that a lot of your work takes place in kind of that last 7 to 8 weeks before the event. But I would recommend now developing that list of people that you want to get in touch with and that you want to sign on, and at least those major partners, and then you'll follow up with everybody once it gets closer to the event. Did that answer your question? Okay.
Okay. How many schools are you talking about in your? I know. My dad. Well, I have an aunt that lives in Concord, so I know your area, but I'm not sure how many schools, how many local. When I say schools, elementary, middle, high school. How many schools are you dealing with? And then my other question was the letters that you send out. Do you have like a template or something?
Okay. EW says he'll cover the letter part. Okay. So for us, we started out concentrating strictly on our local elementary and middle school. We've since expanded because we have county schools that are actually in the city, so we promote to them as well. So it just depends on how your school system is set up, if they overlap at all. So we do deal with 2 different school systems, and I think other places it would just be 1. But yeah, I mean, just sort of determine the vicinity that you want to reach, and then figure out what elementary and middle schools are. That's our program. We do pre-K through middle school. So that's how we figure that out. Another question? Oh, the budget question. So our church, and if you don't mind, maybe we can connect later and I can actually show you the budget sheet, and let you know the specifics on those numbers. But our church contributes about $1,500 every year, and then in the past, we've gotten between 500 and 600 in sponsorships beyond that. So primarily our budget goes to like signage and promotion, banners, flyers, posters, things like that. And then we will put, it depends on how the budget shapes up. Every year has been a little different. Sometimes we'll have a little bit more left over and we'll actually do a giveaway from the church. This last year, because for example, we were responsible for buying helmets. We didn't do that. We just bought the helmets with our budget. One year we gave away that Let's Move issue of Vibrant Life to all the families. For us, that's a different subject, but providing reading material isn't necessarily probably the best for our target market. But anyway, but I can get with you and I can show you line by line kind of what we pay for.
What do you need helmets for other than the karate and the taekwondo demonstrations?
Well, actually, those kids don't get helmets. No, it's for the bike rodeo. It's a bike safety rodeo that the local children's hospital comes and does for us. The kids have to have helmets to get on the bikes to do the rodeo. But because of health issues, you cannot reuse the helmets. So we make it a helmet giveaway. We're shifting to kind of a once, probably every 3 years on that, because we get a lot of the same kids back every year, and it's a big expense, and you really don't need that many helmets. So we're not going to do it this year because of that. But yeah, that's the issue with bicycles, is you have to have a helmet and then you have to give the kids a helmet. You have a follow-up?
Yeah, so if we didn't do that event, then probably we'd not need helmets?
No. No.
Thank you, Larissa. And I told you she's the model for North American Division. And I did appreciate that she brought in some other factors or other elements that we didn't mention at the beginning. For instance, the North American Division has partnered with areas of nutrition, but also the National Park Services. When we've been there at the National Convention, they've been there through the National, as part of the National Park Service. There may be some questions she asked. I'm now going to go through basically the same outline. So if there's any questions that she didn't cover and that I don't cover, you can ask those at the end. But I may cover some of the same things she did with a little more detail, okay? For those that have the outline, I would ask you to turn to page 8. Because we're going to look at this first before I go into some of the things she covered, and like I said, maybe from a different angle. But I do want to emphasize of what she said, and that is you must start immediately, and for a number of reasons that she mentioned that I'm going to mention as far as time factor, okay? And we'll come back to that in just a few minutes. But I'd like for you to look at page 8, section 5. The handouts that you picked up, the white sheet, you should have had that. It was under the. We're going to take a look at the different types of activities that are available. For example, some churches have done programs with Bradley County last year united. I'll tell you what, if you can't find that, I'll just give it to you at the end. Don't worry about it. I mean, okay. He has it, so I don't know how he missed that. Okay, well, your page number is different than mine. I'm sorry, that's my fault. That's my fault. It's section 5, Roman numeral 5, types of programs. And what I just started to say, last year in Bradley County, 2 churches came together. Not just one church, but they united their efforts. And in Oglethorpe, Georgia, the Seventh-day Adventist Church united with 5 non-Adventist churches. First time they had ever worked together. And as a result, they're now working together at the Christmas program, drive-through program, and a number of other ways. Again, emphasizing what she said as far as relationships. But I'd like to look a little bit more specifically here at other ideas. As you look at the location, she mentioned the greenway. That's a perfect way, but it can be just a big field. It can be an athletic field, whatever that you can have. And for example, if you want to set up with all of your sponsors on the outside in a circle around the field or on the rectangle, you can have the different entities, okay? But what I want to show you are some other ways that are real inexpensive and really breaks down key movement. In other words, the organizations that are coming in are showing some things. But first thing I've got there are movement events. Well, what does that mean? Well, it's basically centered around the President's Physical Fitness Test, which measures kids' condition. And so what we've got here are a list of events. Now, if I'm there, I do this, but if I'm not there, you could do the same thing. For example, in the middle of the field, you could have these events kind of set up kind of in different directions than the middle of the field. And what we do, we offer 10 events. If the children participate in 5 of the 10, their names are put into for a drawing. She's already mentioned some of the things that are available. I'll talk more about that in a few minutes. But this encourages the kids to do these things. And believe it or not, a lot of the adults do this. For instance, the very first thing I've got on here is jump rope. We give the kids 1 minute to see how many jumps they can do. Well, some of the kids are so good they keep going, so we stop them at the end of a minute. Well, some of the parents like to see if they can beat their kids at this. The second one there is a hula hoop. Parents love to see if they can beat their kids at this. Another example of movement. The third thing you may notice, and this does take a mat of some type, sit-ups. This is part of the physical fitness test. So we give them 30 seconds to see how many they can do. Once again, over and over, I see parents that like to see if they can beat their kids. Same thing with push-ups. We also do, and I don't think it's on here, a part of the physical fitness test, the measurement of flexibility is on a sit and reach box. And there's different ways you can do that. And again, the parents like to see if they can beat their kids doing that. May notice also there that I have a running event. The 50-yard dash is part of the physical fitness test, the President's Physical Fitness Test. And so you can do this right in the middle of the field. Done it many times. It doesn't interfere with any of the events going around on the outside. You've got the field in the middle for the area you need. 50-yard dash is timed. And it gives the kids they love to race, they love to run and do these kinds of things. They're not really racing, but they're getting to find out how fast they are. The next thing I have there would be in the area then well, I've got one thing for volleyball. We just use a kiddie pool, and you don't even have to put water in it. You can if you want to. And then we have the kids actually practice serving a volleyball to see if they can get it into the pool. Now, these are just some practical suggestions. Then I've got soccer next. No, I'm sorry. I've got throwing event next. On the throwing event, frisbee throw. Kids love this. The frisbee throw for distance. Now, you can do it for accuracy if you want to have a tie or something out there like that. We do not suggest that you do a softball or a baseball throw. That can get somebody hit, wild throws. But we have done a football throw. Small football, and that way it's usually soft, so it wouldn't hurt anybody if it hit them. The soccer is another section here that I have, and I think she mentioned this. The soccer, you can dribble the ball through the cones back. We time it. It gives them, a different element here, bringing in soccer. You can also have a small goal in which they kick the soccer ball into, or take it to some cones. Either way, we do it both ways. As far as the cones are concerned, you can also use those for a shuttle run if you want to, through the cones and back, because that's also part of the President's Physical Fitness Test. Basketball, If you happen to be where they have, and Larissa's done this because I was there actually with her and the University of Tennessee basketball players, they actually have a place where they can shoot basketball. And we just line the kids up, showing them how to shoot correctly and this type of thing. We also, in some cases, use cones to dribble the basketball through. I'm just showing you a variety of activities now, things that you can do. Other things, just along the area of movement, believe it or not, horseshoes. This is something that can be done in which the kids, it may not seem like a lot of activity, but they're throwing, they have to go get the horseshoes, this type of thing. In that, you just kind of limit it to a certain score that they can try to get to so you don't run out of time. Stationary bikes. Your bike company may very well put that out there for you. So it's not quite the same program that Larissa was talking about as far as actually riding the bicycle, but a stationary bike would be another example of something they could do. Somebody mentioned karate. In most cases, the local karate company, I know because I've taken karate, and the company actually came out and just show a little demonstration. They have some mats and things there people can kind of have a little fun with. Taekwondo, same way, and some of these other organizations. So keep that in mind, that if you're going to do that, you need to contact those companies again well in advance. Okay, those are just some of the activities, a little different than some of the sponsored things. I don't think she mentioned this, but maybe she did. In her case, Southern Adventist University has brought their gymnastics team in some, and I think you saw that on the film. We also know that our academies love to get involved with this, so you better listen carefully to this. Because if you're going to schedule them, they can only go to so many places. And so you've got 3 academies in the conference that might come with a gymnastics team. And I loved what happened last year with Collegedale Academy's gymnastics team. They, instead of putting on a demonstration, they brought the kids out there and showed them how to do some basic things, and the kids loved it. And again, this is something that would have to be scheduled, obviously, well in advance. I'll go ahead and bring that up right now. We didn't talk about the date. The official date this coming year, or this year, is September 20th. But folks, it doesn't have to be on that day. A number of our churches schedule them sometime in September, October. It's better to do that, obviously, in the summer when it's really hot. So keep that in mind. Okay. I'd like to back up now to our organizational committee and look at some of these other important factors that either she talked about or we're going to look at. But before I leave it, I'm going to say again, if you want to give away awards as part of this movement section, I would do that separate from some of the other types of things that we talk about in regards to giveaways. And you'll understand what I'm saying in just a few minutes. Okay? All right. Organizational meeting. I started off by saying the church board. And by the way, I'm going to emphasize a little differently than she did. This has to be approved by the church board. This is a requirement from risk management. You can't just put together a Let's Move Day with a few of your laymen. If it's going to be covered risk management, it has to be a church-approved program. And again, I would ask that you start with this organizational committee right away if you're going to do it this year, okay? And as we said, you're going at the very first meeting, or the board may choose before this meeting who the coordinator is going to be. Obviously, Larissa is the coordinator for the program at Lenore City. And the makeup of this organizational committee needs to have a variety of people. Don't put just the church board members that, may all be in a certain age category. I think you can read through what I'm saying. Make sure you have a variety of people on this organizational committee, people who are active, who would love to get involved. Because you could see from what she said, it's not easy, folks. It is not easy. She mentioned the importance of volunteers. And I've even had people ask me how many volunteers you have. It depends on how big you're going to do this thing. Larissa, did you actually mention number of volunteers? You have any idea about how many you've used?
I think we probably use about 50
Okay? Okay. All right. She said maybe 50 volunteers from the church. So again, that number could vary. Obviously, they're not all going to be on the organizational committee. What I'm saying is this is one of the first things you want to talk about. You know, once you've chosen the locality and the date, you're now ready to start piecing together the people that you need. And you might have someone that's in charge of volunteers. You've got the overall coordinator. You may have somebody else that's working with the volunteers, okay? You can see how you need to do this. Medical personnel. We do recommend that you have a medical booth there, tent, whatever you want to call it, and that you would have some nurses there. It could be hot. It could be very hot. And matter of fact, at one of the places last year, one of the local ambulance services even had an ambulance there. And Larissa wants to ask something.
I just had a comment related to that, is that we actually, one of our activities is typically the fire department comes and brings their truck and lets the kids climb on it and everything, but that also gives us kind of that first responder presence there if you don't have medical personnel in your church.
Yeah, thank you. So under the medical personnel, don't take that lightly, okay? Make sure that this, in your organizational meeting, that you have this as a category in your planning. Organizational meeting, write down these different things that I'm giving you right now or she's giving you so that you can make sure you don't miss it down the road somewhere, okay? She's already mentioned contacting key leaders in some ways. Let me back up to the sports teams. If there is a college near you, I would contact the college. Last year in Bradley County, where the two churches came together, they didn't reach out to the college, but Lee College found out about it and came to them and said, can we be part of this? And of course they were welcome. So put that on your list. You may contact, if you don't have a college, the local high school. There may be some things they would like to do as part of this, okay? The athletes, obviously, as she said, are a drawing factor. And it can be a junior college. It doesn't have to be University of Tennessee or one of the bigger schools. All right? As far as the other people in the community, last year they brought a big fire truck out there. Kids love to see fire trucks. Remember, we're going to have kids from ages 3 and 4 doing these things up to bigger kids. And so any of these things can be a drawing factor. Let me talk about the contacting the school systems. And this is real important. I recommend that you start with the school superintendent's office. And usually, within Georgia or Tennessee, they will have an assistant superintendent or somebody who will work closely with you on this process. Inform them what you're doing. It's part of the national program to fight childhood obesity. Every school system that I've worked with, and we've done this in many, many places, I have not yet seen a school system that does not want to jump on board on this. In Polk County, there were 3 different people came from the school system on the Sunday of the program, and they did the same thing the next year. And I gave them some of the posters and different kinds of things, and they were really excited. But the other big thing, and she kind of related to this, is that by working with the assistant superintendent or whoever it is, they'll have a little more time to spend maybe with you. And she's already said, folks, do it before school's out here in the next month if at all possible. If not, it's going to have to be very quickly there in August when school starts. But anyway, every school system that I've worked with has agreed to send flyers home to the kids. We've done 5,000, 6,000 flyers. They take them home with the kids. And so it's a perfect way to do it. But don't wait till the last minute. Go and talk to that assistant or whoever it is and say, we're interested in doing this. When do we need? And don't you ask them to run it off. You provide it and say, we will bring the 5,000 down here. I don't know how it works where you are, but I used to teach in a system where we had, and I think they do this a lot now, whatever they call it, a carrier system in which they take things around to schools. I'm talking about elementary schools and middle schools. And what they do is they contact the principal and say, we've got these flyers coming, we want these to go out on a certain time. And we recommend this actually not too far in advance. Matter of fact, we actually recommend it either the week before or that Friday before if you're doing it on Sunday. Because if it's way ahead, people are going to forget it. Now, you can use radio, television, other things over a period of time. Okay, I am going to have questions at the end, but if I've missed something, do you want to point it out now? Go ahead.
About the schools that last year you have to make it as easy for them as possible. So you need to find out what schools they're going to, how many students in those schools, and we had to divide our flyers up and bundle them because that makes it the most likely that they'll actually get there.
Exactly. I appreciate that. I probably didn't clarify that. Again, if they need 500 in this school, have the school name on there, and it's ready to go. And that makes it easier for them, okay? So thank you for we're trying to put all this together so we don't miss any points, folks, if you wonder kind of what we're doing, okay? But also contact the local politicians. She said this, but I didn't hear her specifically say, I would start with the mayor or city manager. In Blairsville, Georgia, they did this, and the mayor was so excited over it, he declared it as Let's Move Day for the whole town. So again, involve the city or county council or both. Now remember, folks, it is going to reach outside the city limits. So that's why I said county council or city or both. And if you get them on board, this thing can mushroom and grow. And you saw a prime example again with Larissa. Okay? And it would not be a bad suggestion if the mayor is willing to come, to have him there right at the beginning maybe or whatever at some point. He can walk around and, well, as a matter of fact, I've seen events where people running for state school superintendents came around just to shake hands with people. And so I'm not going to get into the politics of this, but I've seen that happen. Okay, she mentioned this, but I want to make sure we don't miss any points. She mentioned the electrical hookup. If you're going to have a PA system, make sure you also have speakers, that the arrangements are made of where you best going to have those located. You may want a portable, this is really, I think, helpful. I know we did this in some of the places, to have one of the battery-operated megaphones or whatever it's called. And because there's always situations where, especially if you're doing the events in the middle of the field, you can call out things, so that the people don't miss that part. Okay. Let me come back to the photography. I think this is important to have a photographer there taking a lot of pictures. You saw what she has. This couldn't have happened if you didn't have a photographer. But then there's some other reasons for that. And that is because you also want to be advertised what happened. And I'll tie that in just a minute to the follow-up, because that's important, okay? All right, let's go to continuing on the organizational part. I think I mentioned civic centers. The sponsors, she talked about sponsors. Let me specifically key in on Walmart. She mentioned Walmart, but I did find out that Walmart generally has money set aside each month for things like this, but you have to contact them at the first of the month. Here's what I recommend. Don't wait to the first of the month. Go months ahead and let them know you've got this gigantic Let's Move Day occurring in the city or the county, and that you would love for them to be a sponsor, and that you're going to be coming out. If it's in fact, they don't give you the money till the first of the month, and say, I'm going to come back and I want to be here at 1 minute after midnight if I need to be to make sure we're on this. Folks, we've got not only bicycles that she mentioned, We got 4 bicycles just from one Walmart, but also a basketball goal, portable basketball goal they gave away. We actually used it as part of the Let's Move Day, but then it was given away to a person as at the drawing at the end. And so Walmart and maybe some of the others, I would contact them way in advance to make sure you know exactly what is available. Okay? All right. I think that another thing that might be real helpful on television, and especially in the small towns, these little local TV programs. I'm not talking about ABC, NBC, or CBS. I'm talking about the local mall and pop TV station where they interview people. I've been into these where they actually invite you. They're looking for somebody to come in and talk about something. And if you go in and talk about this, I guarantee you will have people calling in, because they have people call into these programs. And you advertise this on that program, it'll be free. And you'll get people calling in. So keep that also in mind. Okay? All right. In just a minute, we'll see, Larissa, if I've missed anything, and we'll talk about it. But I want to talk about, and this is Roman numeral 6 in your outline. This is not part of the organizational plan. It's the carrying out of the plan, and that is the day of the event. Now, this is important. She mentioned, or at least referred to it, that there is a registration table. When the folks come in, that's where they start. You can have balloons, you can have whatever else, but have plenty of volunteers to help show people where to go. You know, they show up, there's 500 people there, where do I go? Right over here is where you begin, at the registration table. She mentioned the free handouts. I didn't hear you say this, but maybe you did. And that is a layout of what you've got there in the field, showing where every one of the places are, and including even the center of the field. Because sometimes we forget that. They're going around to the karate and to all these places. But remember, if it's me or you're in the center of the field, that's part of it. It may not look like a booth, but it's an area, okay? Now, again, I don't know if this was mentioned or not. I'm going to mention it again. Generally, a card or something is given to the students to take around to each place. Now, here comes something to help you on the drawings. Okay, somebody asked about the bicycle giveaway and so forth. If you will give them a card and they go to each station and they get a stamp on there, or what am I talking about? A sticker, something on there. If they go to every one of these, they're now eligible for the drawing. And if you do that, that is getting people involved in seeing all the activities. They didn't just come out there just to see the basketball athletes or the soccer players. They're now going to every event. And that's the way we do it, and I think you do it. But although I didn't hear you say that, but a stick, I think you use a stamp, don't you?
We hand out Sharpies to all the station of different colors to all the stations, and they just sign the kids' maps. That's the cheapest. Okay. Either way, you can do that any way you want. Those are just suggestions. Okay. The map, I think, would be helpful because if you've got 50 people standing there, why stand and wait? Go to one of the other booths and come around. I mean, that's a simple thing. Now, this point I don't want us to miss. I do not want to miss it. Actually, I'm going to make 2 points. But the first point is risk management covers church activities. Okay? And so we have asked risk management to approve the types of things we're doing. And you will find, for those that are here, and if you're not here, and if you contact our office, as I said at the beginning, we will send you these same handouts. This is important because risk management is now including some things that we haven't touched on before. A little of it right now is a little unclear to us. But we do know that helmets are required now
in some of these events. So even though it may not be clarified completely on this form, we will let you know the final before the events a long time in advance of what they're saying. Right now they are saying helmets for both the skate or rollerblade event and I believe the mountain climbing, and they're even saying that risk management will not cover the mountain climbing section. Those companies carry their own insurance. What we're trying to get clarified is that since we're the sponsor, how are we covered? And at this moment, I still don't have a clear answer, so we'll have to let all the health leaders know that, okay? But make sure that safety is first in everything we do. This is critical. It only takes a little bit of carelessness, and you know, understand what can happen, okay? All right, here's the other real important point. So make sure you hear what I'm saying. There's going to be some restrooms somewhere. I'm recommending that we have a volunteer not to hang out in the restrooms, but to stay fairly close by, to keep an eye in case we see maybe adults that are just hanging around the bathrooms for some reason. It's not unusual if parents are out there with their kids. In some cases, the kids are out there without the parents. We certainly don't recommend that. We recommend that the parents go around with the kids. And I think in most cases they may. But let's not make a mistake in assuming that. So I think you understand what I'm saying, to make sure the bathroom area on the outside is that we keep an eye out. Does that sound pretty clear, Larissa, of what we're saying? I didn't hear anything about this. Make sure, because it could be really hot that day, that you've got ample water supplies. Matter of fact, I would not be surprised that you would not find an entity that might give away free water bottles. I know that in one case, a church gave away and does this, and the sticker says on there, the water of life is free. And so make sure there's ample. Now remember, this can be spread out quite a big area. So you may want to have more than one. If they have water as part of the city, that's one thing. If not, folks, make sure we get plenty of the water containers and plenty of cups, and of course a barrel to put the cups in. Okay? All right, I'm just about to finish on this, and I'm going to be able to take some more questions to see if we've missed anything, but I want to finish with a follow-up. She mentioned the importance of it. I mentioned the taking of pictures. Put it in the newspaper. Put it on the local TV, because there are going to be people who didn't see that this was any fun, but boy, they see it, and the next year, maybe they'll remember, hey, I remember that looked like that was interesting last year. But let me just show you what can happen, folks. I was there at Bradley County with them, and like I said, I give away a number of prizes that are given away if they do 5 of the 10 events. That is a separate drawing from the main drawing that we talked about, getting stickers or, the stamp. It's a different drawing. When it was over, I had a tennis racket that none of the kids chose. And a mother came up to me and said, my son just loves tennis. Would you give me that tennis racket? My first reaction was, I just can't do that, because I felt like it wasn't fair here. The kids had to, participate. We had a drawing. And she said, okay. I didn't go very far, and I thought, I'm going to give her that tennis racket. So I walked back over there, and I said, I changed my mind. She said, thank you. Said, he really loves this. Well, since I did that, I felt then that I could hand her my Bible research card advertising the fact that we have health videos on there. And she said, oh, thank you. I will watch this. What do you think she was going to say? I just handed her a free racket, So you just never know. You never know. In one of my sports camps, a mother came up and said, would you like to know what my child thought was most important? You might have thought she learned how to dribble or shoot a basketball. She said it was the fact you talked about Jesus. And so I would have health magazines. I would have all kind of things out there to give to people. And remember, what we're doing is yes, we're helping the kids. Yes, we're out there to really meet people and build relationships. And now I would suggest that you think about some follow-up health programs that would fit into this. And right now, the primary program that's happening in this conference, we are recommending that every single church be aware of Steve and Karen Wickham's Reversing Diabetes program. In this office, we had 100 people. We couldn't take in any more people. 2 weeks ago, Chattanooga First Church, 113 people attended. And I mean, it was just, people are very, very excited. And we're seeing reversals of diabetes. One of our churches with 100 members had 35 people go through it. People getting off medication, people getting off of insulin. And I'm telling you that in this meeting just 2 weeks ago, we had somebody that was not a Seventh-day Adventist attend and ask me if they could do this program in their church, and they even asked if I would come and do a health program in their church. So the Reversing Diabetes program would be a great way to plan a few weeks after this, because because of the statistics of people involved with diabetes now. If you handed out flyers advertising this and you've got 300 people out there, stop and think about it. If you've got diabetes and you see this program that is so successful, I think you can see my point. The CDC is right now looking at their program as the official program for the state of Tennessee. They're one of the 5 finalists. And so that's how important this program is. But it could be some other things. It could be other things. It could be a program dealing with cardiovascular disease, whatever else. But plan some kind of church-sponsored event. And I don't mean 4 months after that. Have it ready to go maybe a month later or a few weeks later. Okay? All right. Larissa, I'm going to ask you to come up here with me, if you don't mind. So we'll just stand here together. And Sharon, could you take that around in case there's any more questions? Because I want to see if we've missed anything. Otherwise, if not, we'll be closing here in a minute. Any of these categories that we just went over, is it possible that we missed something? We're not perfect, and in my case, I'm a lot older, so obviously my memory may not be as good as hers.
Wow.
Anything you can think about that we might have missed?
One thing I would like to say related to photography, you need to have all your kids or parents sign a photo release for your children, or you won't be able to use any of the images or
Thank
video.
You. Very important. Something I think I did miss is that the North American Division, this whole thing is in our denomination is sponsored by the North American Division. And they do have some things you can get, the Frisbees I mentioned, but also the shirt I'm wearing. Now, it may look worn out because I've worn it a lot, but it says, let's move. You might want to get some things like this, and I don't think we touched on this because some of the places have made sure that all of their volunteers and everybody has the same color shirt on because that way it's easy for people to spot, that they're part of the system.
Right, and we do that. We do with that at least with our like the registration table and sort of the key coordinators for the event. We make sure everybody has a T-shirt that like that.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be this. It could be anything. Another area I think we missed, and it was showed on the there because I think your dad may have been in charge, and that is parking. Have somebody to help. Now, I know that in some of the places where I go, it's not as easy. In their case, they've got a gigantic area to park. Some of the places, there's limited parking, and they've got to park down through the road there. Have somebody out there at the entrance to tell people kind of where to go. You can park right up here, you can park over there, and then when you walk up, you'll find the registration table. Is that kind of what you've done? I know you've had people
we
in charge
have
of parking.
people on either end of our venue because we have a crosswalk actually that goes to another park, and that person stands there, and it's actually helpful. A lot of people have ended up coming to the event because they see him and they're like, what's going on? He's like, well, turn over here. And so it's nice to have those people with their vests to make sure everybody knows where to go and what's going on.
Yeah, and by having somebody like that standing along near the greenway, if you're doing this near a greenway, keep in mind that greenway is open to the public. And can be anybody can be walking through there. And again, you can understand what I said earlier. In case some kids wander over there by themselves, you understand again the safety factor. Okay, questions. Go ahead if you've got the mic. Go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to know, what time do you all normally start? Because this is on a Sunday, I know. What time do y'all normally start?
So we start, our event goes from 1 to 4 in the afternoon because there are a lot of people that can't participate until after their church services are done. So
some of them, I actually recommend 2 to 5 to give people a chance a little later, but you can do it either way. Some places just do it for 2 hours, 2 to 4, because again, a church service in the evening. We're talking about on Sunday. Usually, you show up you're either 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. And I think maybe she asked that. What time do y'all show up, or did you?
We start setting up about 8.
Yeah, it's better sooner rather than later. And so that's a very good question. Are there other questions?
What was your question about something?
Where do you get the shirts?
We actually download the graphic off of the NAD website and ordered our own shirts with that, like on Vistaprint, but you can order the shirts on the NAD site too, I think.
I think they have other things, don't they? Have pins and all kind of things?
I think so.
Yeah, they have a whole Let's Move section. And so, yeah, I'd go to the NAD website. And by the way, they also I'd love for you to get your reports later and put it on their website. Theirs has been on there, I think, is the main one for 2 or 3 years.
There's a number of
there's
a number of
others
cities that
from
have
all over
them
the
now.
country. So it's again because it encourages other people. They may say, "Hey, look, we can do that." Okay. Another question.
What type of information is on this participation card at the registration booth?
I don't know about other events, but we just get basic information, name, address, age, phone number to give us a way to follow up. Also, we'll separate the way we do I should have brought an example, but we have our map kind of attached to that registration card, and we just clip off the card, and they keep the map, and we keep the card, and that's what we use for the drawings as well.
And then one more question on that. This card that has the different stations and events that get signed and checked at each booth, is that attached to that, or is that yet a separate card?
No, that we make it all one sheet, so it all fits on an 8.5 by 11, and our sponsor names will be below, and then you'll have the map. But we set it up so you can real easily cut the registration card off of the map.
And I'm glad you said that because, again, we're saying a lot here. But don't miss what she said. That is, the sponsors' names are on there. If they come out there and they sponsor and they don't feel like anybody's noticed they're even there, how's that going to help you the following year? So I like that.
And we actually give our sponsors an opportunity. If they want to put signage on the venue, I always tell them, give us a banner or a little yard sign or anything. A lot of them don't really, because they do community stuff all the time, and that's not, but we put them all on all of our promotional material, posters and everything has all our sponsors on there.
On the main drawings, we've even included, for instance, if Walmart donated, which in one case, 4 bicycles and the basketball goal, we said this has been donated by Walmart. Yeah. And so, I mean, you can't do that maybe with every little thing, but okay, do we have any other questions? Okay, I feel that, again, I want to thank Larissa for coming, and I want to thank our communication department for live streaming this. And folks, we may have missed something. So make sure you understand you can call our office, 800-567-1844, extension 348, Becky Campbell. We will help you. We don't know everything, but we are here to assist you. And I serve on the NAD committee, and I'm going to be there in Washington in just a few weeks. And I'm sure this is going to come up again, maybe some of the new don'ts or do's or whatever. And if there's something new, we will let you know, okay? We'll let the health leader and the pastor know if there's some legal changes or something we need to clarify.
And if anyone wants to contact me directly on that Let's Move Day brochure, my name and email address and phone number are on the back of that. The one with the green and the blue lettering on the back of that.
Okay, and before we answer another question, remember what I said, folks. If you will call us, we will mail you this same handout that they have here, and because we want everybody to have the same access to everything. We have another question.
Any problem with inflatables? Any liability kind of problems? I know there was
I did not see that on there. If somebody, Sharon, if you could look at that real quick under that list, but I didn't see that, and I know that most of the places bring that in, the jumping place for kids to jump. Myself, I've always thought that was a dangerous place because some kids are bigger kids and little kids are jumping around. I did not see that listed there under risk management. I may have missed it, so I will check on that, okay? I know they have some that you slide on. So I'm a little surprised maybe that wasn't covered. Keep in mind that these local vendors, these vendors who come in or these sponsors do have to carry their own insurance. We do not cover them. We're protecting ourselves, if you want to say it that way. But we also require that they have insurance. That is part of risk management's requirement. If you've got a karate demonstration, they have to show us that they've got insurance because we're not covering them. We're covering ourselves, okay? All right, any other questions?
One last one. So
All
this
right.
rock climbing, rappelling, and climbing walls, so that inflatable I saw on your video was not, this is one that you have to purchase your own insurance if you're going to have
Okay, this is the main one that we've got questions about. I have specifically talked to our insurance people about, does that mean we cannot have them? They said, well, they've got to show they have insurance. And I said, but how does that protect us? We don't have a clarification on that really beyond what you see there.
But the kids love that. That's
I know.
Rock climbing things, that's a big
Well,
attractor.
we're going to pursue it. We're not giving up because if it's not clarified, we'll get it clarified, okay? Okay, I appreciate everybody that's been watching this live stream. Again, Larissa, folks, you notice she said you can even contact her. She's not getting paid for any of these things, but because she cares, and they've done a great job of organization. And of all the people in our conference, I think she can probably help you most. But we will help you with any of these other details. So again, before we have our closing prayer, folks, remember that this is a great way to meet people in the community and get your church involved. I think she's already alluded to it and said it. It pulls your church together. And even if a lot of people are not involved this year, it can grow, okay? Let's bow our heads for a closing prayer. Father God, we thank you for these wonderful bodies that you've made. You've designed for us to move. Sometimes we become careless. We can do better. But here we're talking about a program where there's a lot of kids that maybe are not able to exercise as much or have not done it, and even adults. So we ask that through this program we can actually get them moving and do better. Maybe to eat better than they're eating and have a better lifestyle. But most of all, through what we're doing, that they can find out that you're their creator. Jesus, you're their creator. And that they can learn to love you and trust you through relationships and all of the things that you've asked us to do. And we're asking your blessings upon each church and each of our health leaders and each individual that's involved. And we give you all the honor and glory, and we thank you in the name of Jesus. Amen.